So before that, I would request you all to mute your audio. If you have not already been muted, I would request you all to mute your audio. Thank you. So basically, this session has been divided into two parts. Each part is going to be for 40 minutes, inclusive of the question answer session. The first 40 minutes, we will be talking about the different aspects of cybercrime, cyber law. We'll take a 5 minutes break and we'll come back and continue with the remaining 40 minutes. Okay. Now, I would like to, I still can hear a few noises. Can I please request the people to put their mics on mute? It's a humble request. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Furthermore, this session has been organized by Tathya Walk the Law, headed by multiple law students and legal luminaries from all across the country. So first of all, I would like to thank Tathya Walk the Law for arranging this entire session. Now, Tathya looks at improving upon the academic front of the entire legal system all across the country and then eventually all across the world. So this is a very dynamic group and their lecture series have been brilliant. So I would recommend everybody to attend their lecture series, which are going to follow beyond this, so that we all can enhance our legal skills. And furthermore, Tathya gave us this opportunity and we are very much humbled and we would like to, and we would do our best to make sure that we do justice to the next 3 days. Coming to the main part, my name is Advocate H.B. Keshava. I am the founder and managing attorney of Bhaskaran and Associates. So we are a very young law firm. We specialize in intellectual property rights and cyber law. And I am myself am an alumni of Indian Law Society, ILS Law College, and UPES Dehradun. So on the request of some of my brothers and sisters from ILS Law College, and with the request of people from Tathya Walk the Law, we decided to do this session. So let me tell you about this session. The entire session is structured in a manner where we will be talking about 3 aspects of cyber law. The first aspect, can I request people to put their mics on mute? It's a humble request. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Because once the session goes in full flow, I may not be stopping you people, but it's still a humble request on the beginning itself. Thank you. So basically in cyber law, we're going to deal with 3 aspects. Today, I'm going to talk about the different cyber crimes. The different cyber crimes, what are where they originate from, what is hacking, what is cracking, what is the Indian cyber law regime, why the Indian cyber law regime is very important, why people are paying a lot of attention to the entire cyber law regime, and today why it is extremely important and why it is of crucial importance is what we are going to discuss today. In tomorrow's session, we will be discussing about if a cyber crime has occurred, if you have been victimized or you know somebody who's a victim, then how you are supposed to carry out the next set of actions as to how you are supposed to file a complaint. If it is a complaint of what type, is it a proper offense or is it a contravention? All those factors will be discussed tomorrow. And in day after tomorrow's session, I shall be discussing about where cyber law meets other different laws. Cyber law has the sister law, intellectual property rights. Cyber law has the father law, which is the Indian Penal Code and CRPC. So where cyber law meets all of them is what we are going to discuss day after tomorrow. Now, how the session is structured is that at the end of the session, I will be taking questions and we will be taking questions on the chat box. So once you have the questions on the chat box, then I will be addressing it individually based on the time constraint also. And also, can I request the organizers to approve some of the people? Because I think they are still trying to get online and they have not yet been approved. Thank you. So let us begin the session without further ado. So how many of us at home have this one little device? All of us? Absolutely. as my father would rightly say, that this is a small devil. You know, he used to say this when the first time the mobile phone landed in our hands as youngsters. He immediately said that, look, you have purchased a little devil. Now, we never really understood what he meant back then. But today, when I look back, he actually made a lot of sense. Because in olden times, when we looked at law as a perspective, it was always man versus man. But today, it is a device versus device when we are talking about cyber law. Because of which so many types of activities have gone online, where victimizing people online has become far easier than victimizing people on an everyday basis. Okay. For example, let me give a very basic example. We all are there on Facebook. We all are there on Orkut. We all are there on Instagram. Some of us are even there on TikTok. Some of us are there some of us are there on TikTok, some of us are there on like multiple platforms. But to what extent are we using these platforms properly? What exactly how to what extent are we using this platform judicially is what we need to understand in today's session. So let me begin by telling you people about what exactly is cybersecurity and why cybersecurity is very much important in our everyday lives. I hope you have your papers and pens in hand, because there are certain points which I would request you people to write down as we speak. Cybersecurity is basically how well you're protecting yourself in a completely different world. Okay, when we are talking about staying in a completely different world, we are asking about the fact that what exactly is the meaning of this world. This world is what we call as the cyber realm. This world is what we call as the cyber jurisdiction. Because in cyber jurisdiction, here is the funny story, there is no jurisdiction at all. It is spread out everywhere. We all use the internet at home. We all use Wi-Fi at home. We all use almost every single device at home. When we have such kind of a scenario where we are using multiple devices, where we are using multiple data-based products at home, then there is a very high chance that a major breach can occur. Now, how do I define breach? Now, here is a question for all of you. What is the most dangerous entity on this planet? What is the most dangerous entity on this planet? Can anybody would like to give an answer on the chat box? A human. So Vaibhav says that a human being is the most dangerous entity. Atharva says artificial intelligence, a hacker, internet. What else? Can I have more answers? Come on, let's make it as interactive as possible. There are people who are saying technology, people are saying coronavirus at the moment. People are saying, there is a very nice answer. Greed, social media, data. So there is this one person called Joy who has said data. Faisal says money. The most dangerous entity are not weapons, it's not money, it is not the human being. The most dangerous weapon is information or data, rightly pointed out by some of the people out here. Information in today's date is the most dangerous entity in the entire world. Because if you have the right information about an individual, about an organization, about an entity, you can literally trouble that person to whatever extent you would like. You can harass that person. You can torment that person. You can destroy that person. And last but not the least, like we had our Blue Whale challenge, we had the Saraha app, you can even kill a person using information. That is the biggest challenge when we are dealing with the scenario of information. Now, what is exactly information, sir? हमारे पास तो information मतलब कि होता क्या? What are all the different aspects that we have on information? Here is the best part. Information is a spread out factor, entity. It is literally spread out all across the globe. Every day we deal with information. Every second we deal with information. The very fact that I'm talking to you, is information. The very fact that you people are online and responding, that is information. So data, or rightly the right usage over here, is information is currently the most dangerous entity on the planet. When did that this information could be dangerous? You will be surprised to know that information is dangerous was realized not right now. It was realized during the period when Mahabharata and Ramayana was going on. Yes, if information was not revealed to the right people, the Ramayana would not have been won by Lord Ram. If information would not have been revealed to the Pandavas by Lord Krishna, the Mahabharata would not have been won. If the information would not have been revealed to the right gods and demigods, to the right kings and rulers, major legendary kingdoms would not have come into existence. The danger of information has been existing since ancient times. Any kind of a confidential data, like you people have rightly pointed out in the chat, any kind of a theory, any kind of an information, any kind of a point where people say that we are going to strategize something or create something, that is called as information. And information, because of that, kingdoms have fallen, kingdoms have risen, kings have become paupers, and paupers have become kings purely because of information. And in today's day, that entire information, the aspect of information, is in our hand through a technological device. When we say a secret to a friend, we always tell him that, "Yaar, ye apne paas rakhiyo. Do not tell this to anybody. Keep this secret with yourself. Do not tell this to anyone." But do we realize that when the same secret we send over WhatsApp, we send over a Facebook Messenger, we are actually breaching upon our own data? Do you think that information is not visible? It is absolutely visible. All it takes is one single cyber attack. So in the year 2000, it was realized that India needs a major legal regime, a major legal system. Now, when the year 2000 came into being, at that time the question asked was, what do we need to tackle technology on an everyday basis? Because it has been rightly said, technology is a brilliant servant, but technology is the worst master. It has been perfectly said. So because of that one particular aspect, what has happened is that our lawmakers felt that without a legal regime for handling information technology, running a show in the future would be a very big challenge. Because of that, what happened is the IT Act 2000 was formed. The Information Technology Act 2000 came into existence. Now, the Information Technology Act 2000, even though it is still a dynamic law, it is still growing in nature, it is still growing from time to time, many amendments are expected in the future. It was designed keeping in mind every single aspect that a human being deals with in his or her life on an everyday point. For example, let us start with a very simple example of Facebook. So this case study that I'm going to talk to you people about, it happened in Pune. So this case study was such that a house was robbed. It's a very simple case study. A house was robbed. The police was called to investigate. The police came in. They noticed that all the CCTV cameras had been disconnected. Rather, the wires had been snapped off. And immediately, a lot of people got worried as to who would do such a thing, who would do such an intelligent thing. I'm going to make it sound a little funny. Who would do such an intelligent thing? But nevertheless, what had happened is that in such a scenario, the cyber security team or the cybercrime helpline or the information technology department of the state had also got involved in that robbery, because that robbery was for a high profile person. So when the entire investigation was done, they were able to crack the case in a matter of just 24 hours. It's because of the fact that there were certain elements that was missed out and certain elements which was volenti non fit injuria, which was deliberately done by the owners of the house, which caused the entire robbery. Now, how did the entire scenario go? I'm going to explain to you. And it's a very interesting case, and I would request you all to listen with your complete apt attention. So in this case, what had happened is that once the complaint was filed, the people who were investigating on the complaint, they had come over. So they realized that the family had 2 teenage daughters. So they were having a conversation with every member of the family, and that time they spoke to the teenage daughters as well. So when they spoke to the daughters, they realized that one of the daughters was actually using the social media. So therein, they asked the daughter, can we please see your social media profile? Can we see your Facebook profile? The person immediately got a little offended, and she said that, why should I share my social media profile with you? Why should I share my Facebook page with you? They said that we just want to observe it. We are not going to trouble you with it. She immediately went about saying that, no, this is my private information, my personal information. But nevertheless, after persuasion and after requesting the parents, the girl finally agreed. They looked at her profile during the period when the robbery was committed and before the time when the robbery was committed, and they were quite surprised that they knew how the robbery had happened just by looking at her Facebook profile. Here is where things got a little nasty. On her profile, 3 months before the robbery, there was a post from her, a wall post that said that, going on a family tour, please suggest where I can go. So there were multiple suggestions from multiple people saying that you can probably go to Singapore, you can go to Dubai, you can go to Lonavala, blah, blah, blah. So finally, there was one particular post which said that, why don't you go for a trip to the Himalayas? Now she got excited, and after 1 month, she posted, I'm going to Himalayas in the next 2 months. I'm looking forward to this trip. Now, this is where the thing started getting interesting, where she started posting that we are going to have a road trip from here all the way to Bombay. And from Bombay, we are going to take a flight to Delhi. And from Delhi, we are going to have a further road trip to the Himalayas. So she started giving this updates on an everyday basis through her excitement. It's nothing wrong to be excited, but just that we need to realize where exactly we need to be excited and where we shouldn't be excited. So she started putting those points every single day on her Facebook post. Eventually, she started sharing, I have purchased this gear, I have purchased that gear. I'm going to use a Thar, a vehicle called Thar from Delhi for my road trip. And it will not be as good as my father's Fortuner, which is here. All those statements were made. Now, exactly 10 days before the entire trip, she had posted on her social media on a countdown basis, 10 days to go, then 9 days to go, 8 days to go. It went on, and finally on the day of the road trip, she started giving live updates about what she's doing. She said, I've just started from my home. I started on the road trip, stopped for lunch at Lonavala. Now I'm driving towards Bombay at the flight. Sorry guys, won't be able to talk, have a flight to catch. After reaching Delhi, putting up posts in Connaught Place. And furthermore, from there, she started putting up posts saying that my road trip has started. And finally, there was one post where she said that now I have started climbing the Himalayas and now there will be no network coverage. I'm sorry, people, I will miss you, with a lot of smileys in the end. Now, this is the funniest part, because as soon as she made that post, the very next day, a truck arrived right outside her house. Now, she was a very well-off person. A truck arrived right outside her house. 2 people in uniforms stepped down from the truck with a clipboard in hand. They went to the watchman and they said that, we have come for conducting the renovation, and sir said that few things need to be shifted to the godown. So when the watchman, he argued back by saying that, how can I reach sir? It's not possible. He said that, sir, we don't know. I mean, this is there. This is the work order. The watchman was also quite innocent. He tried calling his owner 2-3 times, and the owner did not respond. And finally, what happened is, the owner, since he had not responded, the watchman gave in and he said that, okay, you start doing whatever the boss has asked you to. So they immediately started moving the furniture from the house. They started moving all the smaller entities from the house, like TV, fridge, vagera, sab kuch, everything they started moving. And before doing that, they disconnected the entire CCTV over there, the CCTV system. And furthermore, they even opened the garage and they took out the vehicles from there, saying that, sir, even the garage needs to be renovated. Now, after a point of time, the watchman also started having doubts as to why would there be so much detailing in the work they're doing. So finally, when the watchman tried to raise an alarm by saying that something is wrong, They drugged the watchman immediately over there, and the watchman became unconscious. They kept him on the side. They completed the entire. They completed the entire robbery. They put it on the truck and they disappeared. 7 days later, the girl puts up a post on Facebook. My house was robbed. I am so upset. This is how the whole case was ended. So immediately the investigators, they were able to realize that the complete update about her movement, her family's movement, was there on her Facebook profile. That means somebody who has been watching her on the Facebook profile is the one who has committed the crime. Immediately they looked at who are all the people who are a part of it, and they realized that one of the departmental store owners was also there. So they immediately went to the departmental store owner. They confronted him, and he said that, yes, sir, I'm aware about the crime. Why don't you, question me? I mean, it's fine. So they started questioning him. Where were you on that day? What were you doing? And he was innocent. But they checked the CCTV footage of the departmental store, and they realized that two workers in the departmental store used to come to the PC of the owner, used to come to the desktop of the owner, and used to open up something which was not completely visible on the CCTV camera, and they used to constantly view it. So there what happened is they started having their doubts as to why are these people doing this quite often. So finally those two people were confronted, and when asked and interrogated, it just took hardly, Maharashtra police is famous for it. So they just interrogated in the right way, they questioned, they put forward the right questions, and finally they confessed. They said that our boss never logged out of Facebook. So we were always watching this girl on Facebook. We knew that she is from a very wealthy family. We have heard the conversation about her talking to the owner of the departmental store, where he says that, I saw that you have put up this post on Facebook. I'm really happy to see you're doing this or doing that. That way, a lot of information was leaked out without two individuals not even knowing that this information is going around, which had led to a robbery which was in crores. This is one of the finest examples of how volunteer non-fit injuria and cybercrime can happen together. And this is one of the craziest places I've seen, because so many people have got badly affected due to such kind of crimes. This is one example. Let me give you another example. Now, this particular example is one of the most famous cases is one of the most famous cases which has happened over a long period of time. This is called as the Pune Citibank emphasis call center fraud, where ex-employees of business process outsourcing defrauded USA customers to an amount of almost 1.5 crores. Do the count, 1.5 crores, by saying that they were a part of the Citibank body, they were a part of the Citibank dispute resolution team. And they started taking a lot of information which included credit card, debit card details, and they were able to siphon the money out of those particular credit card and debit cards, which created a huge hue and cry. And that was the first time that people felt that we definitely need a cyber law system that can actually handle the entire situation. Another factor that came was the Sony Sambandh.com case. I do not know how many of you have heard of the Sony Sambandh.com case, where Sony had this one particular website called the Sony Sambandh, where they provided Sony-based products to people in India, where people, or all across the country, where all across the globe, where people could actually purchase the products. If they wanted to gift a product to their loved ones, they would just put the order on that website, make the payment, and they would do the delivery. One such order caught the attention, where the person who had placed the order called up the police and said that, I have not placed this order. Somebody has used my credit card details and has made a very big order. Can you please look into it? When the matter was looked into it, an individual from India had managed to procure her credit card details, and he pretended to be her. That is, he was representing himself as her, and he placed the order. And through all the credit card details, the entire case was taken into, the entire order was taken into record. And finally, the order was placed, even though the amount was pretty much minor. But the biggest challenge that came by was the fact that somebody lost a lot of money. And by the time they could, go extremely deep into the case, they could understand how the case needs to be handled, it was too late. The damage was done. Now, before we move further, I would like to discuss with you one major aspect of cyber law, trying to understand what is hacking. So you have the chat box. Can somebody tell me in your simple words, what is the meaning of the word hacking? Unauthorized access. Thank you, Ashna. Data theft. Richa, thank you. Intruding and misusing others' information. Brilliant. Getting into someone's system without their consent. Okay. Breaching, taking control over an account. Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. I'm getting a lot of excellent answers. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Appears that, like you people already know a lot of points that we are going to discuss in today's session. That's very nice. So when we basically talk about hacking, most important question is hacking legal? The most important question I'm asking to you people is hacking legal? Aniket says hacking is not legal. Anushri also says hacking is not legal. Now here is the point, guys. You'll be quite surprised to know that hacking is actually a positive term. The actual nemesis of hacking is the word called cracking. The global usage of unauthorized access, breaking into somebody's account, breaking into somebody's personal information, that is called as cracking. But in India, we have identified it as hacking, and what we go against hacking is called as ethical hacking. But on a global scenario, we are talking about cracking versus hacking. That is how you people need to remember the entire system. So as we approach to the halfway through the session, I'm going to tell you about the different factors that are involved in hacking. First point is you need to understand what is an attack. An attack is basically unauthorized access, backdoor entry into a device or a server or an account, misrepresentation or pretending to be somebody else, behaving in such kind of a manner that you are pretending to be someone, stealing somebody's IP address and committing an act in the name of somebody else, hacking through somebody's social media or Gmail accounts or all the email accounts, and last but not the least, which is some of our most favorite ones, torrents. Illegal download of data, illegal download of torrents. These are all the factors. These are just some of the basic ones, but these are one of the most broadest aspects of what are the different types of cyber crimes. So in under attacks, let us talk about the different types of attacks that are there. Let me start with something called as the bot attack and the backdoor entry attack. Now we have exactly 6 minutes to go before the 5-minute break. And when we come back, we'll be completing with the remaining types of attacks. So first, let me start with what is called as a bot attack or BOT. Now, bot attack is basically when you set up an automated artificial intelligence. Now, the artificial intelligence need not be something like Siri, need not be something like Google, need not be something like Cortana. It's a simple artificial intelligence that you have planted in somebody's device. Let it be a phone, a tablet, or a laptop. And once it has been activated, the bot has a very simple work. It completely starts disrupting your system from within. It starts performing action on behalf of the hacker or the cracker in this case. It starts acting on behalf of the perpetrator. And most importantly, it can disrupt a lot of actions which you normally perform on your devices. So what do you mean by disrupt your actions on your devices, sir? Imagine your phone is kept idle in a corner. You're not even using your phone. The bot can activate your phone in such a manner that your phone can start making calls to other people. and people can use your phone to make calls to other people on sitting in a remote place. The bot can actually type an email full of abuses, an email which is completely defamatory, an email which is completely comprised of a lot of illegal factors, and it can be sent to maybe your clients or maybe your rivals or maybe to the public at large. And last but not least, bot can activate switched off devices, which will completely render your device vulnerable. A switched off device can also be turned on. You have a bot attack in place. Next comes a backdoor. There's a famous saying in Hindi: सीधे रास्ते से नहीं जा सकते तो पीछे के रास्ते से जाओ. When you can't hit it hard, when you can't hit it straight, hit from the back. That is called as a backdoor entry program. Now, certain software servers, accounts are all designed in such a manner that they are completely secure. They have a very strong firewall protecting it. But there are vulnerabilities. When you identify these vulnerabilities, those vulnerabilities are called as backdoor entries. Barabar? So if you have a device, okay, where you may have clicked on a certain link, you do not know what that link does, but you have deleted that link completely, you have come out of that website. But if that website has left a certain residue in your device, that residue can open a sector in your device itself where I can plant a virus, where I can plant a bug, where I can plant any illegal material. All those factors I can plant inside your device in just a click of a finger. That is called as a backdoor entry. Now, when we talk about a backdoor entry program, a program basically is like a drilling equipment. What cannot be done from front is done from the back, means that entity, that program slowly starts breaching through your entire server or your account or your entire device in from a position where it is not possible to identify that it is happening. Slowly and steadily, the entire contaminant enters your device, and once the contaminant has entered your device or server, then it starts disrupting from within. That is precisely what a backdoor entry program does. Now, guys, we are left with exactly 2.5 minutes. I'm going to cover one more topic before we can take a break. Then comes the brute force attack. Now, you would have noticed many a time servers and websites start lagging. Certain websites and servers slow down like anything. Now, you may wonder, why is this server slowing down? Why is this website slowing down? You actually you don't have a very an honest answer for it. That purely happens when there is a brute force attack going on. In a brute force attack, what happens is that you give multiple, not one, but multiple commands, multiple softwares, multiple instructions on a single website. And when you start doing that, that website starts getting over pressurized. It is like a larger army tackling a small entity, a small unit. So website पे इतना ज़्यादा जोर पड़ जाता है that website becomes so much overburdened with the amount of data overflow that the website starts collapsing. The website starts slowing down, and eventually the website or the server or the device means computer, phone or tablet, it crashes completely. That is called as a brute force attack and a buffer overflow attack, as we call it. Okay, so we are exactly left with 1 minute, guys. So if you have any questions till this point, you can have the chat box. You can start placing your questions on the chat box, and we shall be coming back to the session in exactly 5 minutes from now. All you have to do is just copy and paste your link on your browser exactly after 5 minutes, and we will be going active again. Question till now? So Sakshi, basically what happens is when there is a particular, have you seen a water balloon? When a water balloon is filled with water, it has the capacity to expand to a certain extent. Okay. But when there is too much water that is being placed inside the balloon, a point comes that the balloon expands to certain level that it completely bursts. Now imagine the balloon to be your server, or imagine imagine the balloon to be Can I please request the people to put their devices on mute, please? Thank you. Thank you. Farida ma'am, good evening. Good to see you here. Okay, guys, let us continue. So we had discussed about the brute force attack, the buffer attack, and also we had also spoken about what exactly is an attack, what is a bot attack. Am I not audible still? I have unmuted myself. Yeah. Am I audible now? Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we had spoken about the brute force attack and the buffer overflow attack. Now come some of my favorite types of attacks. This is my favorite. Phishing. So many times we have received a message on our phone or WhatsApp or over the email saying that you have won $10 million or you are the new owner of iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is probably costing a kidney or a liver right now. We all have received that kind of messages, and some of us have actually been very innocent enough to click on that message if we have encountered such kind of a message for the first time. And when we click on that message, immediately it takes us to a link. It says fill up this survey, fill up that survey, or just provide us with your name and your address and we will have it delivered to you. I am sorry, please never do that. There is a reason why. We may say that, sir, we are not revealing our phone number, we are not revealing our we are not revealing our data, we are not really revealing from any we are not revealing our address or account number. But the very fact that you have clicked on the link has activated one particular aspect. What has been activated, if you people ask me? They have activated something called as a key logger. Now let me explain what is this key logger that comes through phishing. Now what is phishing? Not F-I-S-H-I-N-G, it's P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G. It's called as phishing, where a link is placed like a bait and a victim clicks on that link and is immediately taken to a completely different domain or a completely different website. Yes, exactly, fake messages, you're absolutely right. So once that goes over there, many a times people, they don't even provide their data. They realize it's a fake website and immediately they come out of it. But my dear friends, the point is, the very fact that that one particular link has been clicked creates something called as a key logger, which is planted either in your phone or your tablet or your laptop or desktop. Keylogger is basically a kind of a program that is constantly working in the background. That constantly that entire program is functioning in such a manner that whatever you do on your PC, on your device, on your phone, on your tablet, like watching a video, opening your bank account statements, clicking on just a photograph, or sharing something with somebody, clicking on your Gmail account by typing in, going into your Gmail account or your Facebook account or your LinkedIn by typing your password and username is enough for that keylogger to make things worse for you. What keylogger immediately does is starts taking that data and it starts transmitting that data to the home computer from where this link originated. And when that happens, the person on the other side is actually watching you. Let me take a very disgusting example of phishing. Now, it so happened that there was exactly, it works like a screen recorder. Subhash Bandareji, okay, it works like a screen recorder. It records everything that is going on a screen, but just that it has a more professional way of handling it. Okay. Ambika Sharma, your question is that how do we know that it is a fake link? Sometimes on our computer sites open automatically, which are actually fake. Now see, Ambika, this is a brilliant question. Okay, now this is one question that even cyber experts have not been able to handle. But let me ask you a very direct question over here, Ambika. If somebody is just coming forward and saying that you have won $10 million, would you just believe it openly? Would you just blindly believe it? Okay, and at the same time, when you have, exactly, no. And at the same time, when you see a link which your phone automatically redirects to, immediately what you do is that once you come out of that link, start clearing the cache. Start clearing the cache in your phone, start clearing the cache in your PC, because that actually helps you identify if there is some suspicious program. Run your antivirus then and there. Lage kuch gadbad hai, immediately run your antivirus. Your antivirus has the capability of identifying, because it's a very good saying that the more like the people who manufacture cigarettes are also the manufacturers of the cure for cancer. Same way, the people who are actually building upon the viruses, they are also they also keep up to date the antivirus people. So the antivirus people know what are all the different kinds of viruses that are there. Now, Anubhav, unfortunately, certain keyloggers can be detected, but then there are chances that certain keyloggers cannot be detected. Okay, that is the biggest problem right now. Certain keyloggers, Anubhav Shukla ji, if since you have asked it, certain keyloggers को बहुत easily detect हो सकता है because they are amateur keyloggers. But there are certain keyloggers which are so complex that you don't even know that it is a keylogger. Anyways, I would like to share a small case with you people, and you're gonna love this case. But of course, it's a very tragic case, but it's an eye-opener case. You should not blindly trust people when they send you a link or when they send you certain data. So it so happened that there was this single working woman. A single working woman means she was an unmarried woman who was living in a studio apartment. Now, in a studio apartment, she wanted to set up a desktop. So she asked one of her office employees to help her out. He came, he set up the entire desktop, and he also said that I will provide you with certain softwares. Just click on it, all the softwares will be installed. Now, she was a very humble and a very gullible person who accepted, and she accepted to all the links that were coming her way. Things went on. Now, this woman was in a relationship with another man. So that man used to regularly visit her home. And since he had visited her home, obviously, since they were in a relationship, they had got intimate multiple number of times. And at the same time, since it was a studio apartment, whenever she had to change, her washroom was connected right to her hall. So the second she walked out of her washroom, she actually ended up coming to her hall. Now, it so happened that one fine day she got a call from a very close friend who asked her, "What is wrong with you? I thought you are earning well, you're doing well. Why are you indulging in such activities?" Now, the poor thing, that lady, she was curious and she was confused. She's like, "Yaar, mujhe samajh mein nahi aa raha, tum bol kya rahe ho? What is it that you're exactly trying to point out?" At that point, he showed her something shocking. There are certain websites called as the Pornhub, RedTube.com. They are all pornographic websites. India has banned pornography, and the IT Act, the Information Technology Act, is dead against pornography. There was a major scandal against this woman where everything that had happened, where she was where she in her very vulnerable points, photographs and videographs were like video was taken of her, or there was a photograph which was clicked of her, which had been uploaded in this particular website, and people were making money out of it. This woman got so shocked that she got stuck with an anxiety attack. She had a major depression. But she did the boldest thing possible. She went up to the cybercrime helpline. She went up to the, she went to the police and she reported everything. When they started investigating, they realized that the desktop was placed in such a way in her room where the web camera was directly facing towards her bed and towards her washroom. She said, "What is wrong? I switch off my PC." They asked her, "Do you switch off your CPU?" She said, "Yes, I switch off my CPU." They asked her, "Do you switch off your monitor?" She said, "Yes." Then they asked her the final question, "Do you switch off your UPS?" She said, "Why do I need to switch off my UPS all the time? Let it be on." That is where people started having doubts. So immediately the forensics experts, they got into it, they got into her desktop, they tried to analyze what had happened. And they were shocked to see that she had clicked on certain links which had activated a keylogger, which had activated a backdoor entry program, and which had also activated a bot inside her PC. And because of these activations, what had happened is that her entire desktop was remotely being controlled by her office employee who had helped her out in setting this up. imagine what would have happened to the dignity of that woman. Imagine what would have happened to the like what if that woman had chosen to commit suicide or something like that? It would have been completely out of hand. These kind of attacks can happen when you are actually ending up in phishing. Now there is another thing called as clone phishing. Now clone phishing is one of the most deadliest kind of cybercrime actions I've seen, where what has happened is if an individual is typing, let's say, facebook.com, Google shows facebook.com. So the person clicks on the link and goes to the Facebook's website. There they put in their username, their password, and they're waiting, and the website doesn't load. They keep on trying to reload, but it doesn't reload. After that, what they do, they completely shut it down. They again open Google, they again type Facebook, they go back to Facebook, they put the user details, and they have gone in. What you need to understand over here, or what this individual does not understand, is the fact that the first time they probably went into a fake website, which is called as clone phishing. The link is there on top in Google after facebook.com, and like immediately what happens is that this person has clicked on that link, which has led that person to a completely cloned website where only data collection or information collection is going on. And where information collection and data collection is going on, the person has become vulnerable to multiple factors, to multiple entities. Many people have lost their Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts because of clone phishing. And the biggest problem is, out of every 100 people who have faced this issue, only 5 people report. The remaining 95 are too scared to report because they do not know what is going to happen next. They just casually send a message to all their friends by saying that my account has been hacked, you please delete that account. But they don't realize that that account needs to be monitored, reopened, changed, brought down completely, and you need to go to the source of where it has been, where the attack has actually originated from. So we have a few questions over here. Aviroop Chatterjee has asked us, does artificial intelligence or machine learning make it easier for phishing? Absolutely, Aviroop, it does. Absolutely. Artificial intelligence can be designed in such a way that you can create a system where it constantly starts phishing for people, where it just drops in links randomly in multiple places. And when links are randomly placed in multiple places, आपको email आएगा, WhatsApp पे forward आएगा, Gmail पे आपको message पे forward आएगा, और आप just, since we are all using a smartphone, we directly click on that link and we end up in that place. Okay, so that is answering you, Aviru. And Anubhav, you have further asked us that I have heard the same of Flipkart. Yes, Flipkart, Amazons are one of the biggest, one of the Raj coming to it. I have a brilliant case study to answer for that, Raj Kapadia. Okay, but coming back to answering Anubhav, Flipkart and like Amazon, they are two of the places where people have conducted a lot of phishing based crimes, because Amazon and Flipkart is one of the largest forums where people are utilizing, and they have a payment gateway which is in play. So when there is a payment gateway that is there, if you have been phished, as we call it, or if the cyber attack has been concluded, then aapka data becomes extremely vulnerable. Your data starts being transmitted from person to person, place to place. So we have another question. Can't clone phishing be detected if we check the URLs? We can differentiate between HTTPS and HTTP. Amol, your question is 101% right, but here is the problem. How many people in the country right now know the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? I'll be very honest, some of the people who are attending the session, I can guarantee you 50% of the people do not know. HTTP, if you see on the website, it is written HTTP. Okay? HTTP is never secured. Whereas if you see HTTPS, that means it is secured. So S stands for secured. Pratik, thank you for helping me out on this. So Amol, answering your question, people need to understand the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. So this one advice I'm giving to all the legal practitioners and all my fellow friends, brothers, sisters out there, is that if you are opening a website, always check कि वहाँ पे HTTP लिखा हुआ है या HTTPS लिखा हुआ है. If it is written HTTPS, you know it's a secured website, you can go into the website. But if it is written HTTP over there, I would request you, please do not visit that website. Okay. So coming to your answering you, Anjali Sharma, even though pornography is banned, some ISPs, internet service providers, still haven't done that. What's the action to be taken in that case? Now, Anjali, this is a very funny question here. How many people want to report that pornography has been, the ISPs providing pornography-based services? This is the problem. 90% people don't want to report it because 90% people actually gain pleasure out of committing that particular, illegal activity of watching pornography. They don't care. They don't care about their self-respect or dignity. They just want to watch it. For which what they do is that they happily, they will rather say that mera ISP, internet service provider, Bhagwan hai. Kyun? Kyunki wo to mujhe pornography dekhne deta hai. This is unfortunately the problem. Despite the fact that the government has made, the law has made very strict regulations as per the Information Technology Act that ISPs should not have it. Many people have gone through indirect ways to download. Like for example, when Pirate Bay was taken down, when Kick-Ass torrents was taken down, when even Yiffy torrents were taken down, still people found a proxy server to reach up to them. So same way, this particular proxies are going on from time to time. Exactly, Abhishek, you're there. No matter how many restrictions you put it, people are still going to watch it using a VPN. Now let's take countries like you take countries like USA and Europe, where their cyber law restrictions are too good, where their legal regime is very strong. Still, people have got access to this through different VPNs. Okay, so thank you, Abhishek, for making my work a little easy. So here we have Lokesh Varan. Lokesh, you have asked this question: is phishing used as a base for salami attacks? Absolutely, Lokesh. Phishing has become a base for multiple kinds of attacks. Multiple types of attacks can be done through phishing. It's not just salami attack. There are so many different types of attacks that can be done. Shreyas Shetty, can personalization of news and ads be considered as breach of privacy, especially the algorithm strings utilized by Google and Amazon? Shreyas, I can answer your question, but can you put it in simpler words over here so that everybody can understand what exactly is your question? I'd be really happy if you could do that. Shreyesh Masurkar, I will be coming to dark web, but let me go with one more case study because a person had asked about skimming. Okay. Shailendra ji, really good to see you over here. Regulations to centrally fight cybercrimes. This tomorrow's session we'll be discussing tomorrow, because today I just want to tell you about the different types of cyber crimes that are over there. So tomorrow I'll be going in particular about the different types of the different ways we are fighting them out. Okay. So I sure hope you understand. Okay. Coming step by step, there is this one particular case which had happened, which involved skimming of debit cards and credit cards. Now, what exactly is a skimmer? Now, when you want to collect information on a debit card and credit card, it's a very simple game. You just need access. Now that we have OTPs on the phone, you just need access to the phone number or the phone. You need the digits which are mentioned on the debit card or credit card, and you need the CVV number. But there is a fourth entity also that you need. You need the magnetic strip. Okay, you need the magnetic strip. So where you need that particular aspect, this one particular case where it happened that a person was regularly visiting a restaurant. So in that particular case, what had happened is that another gentleman was carefully eyeing that person from time to time. When I say carefully eyeing that person from time to time, he was slowly observing that person. While observing that person, this fellow realized that regularly you see a person, you start building a bond with that person. You eventually, a point comes that you strike a friendship with that person. So these two gentlemen started talking to each other. And over the months, one of the gentlemen said to the other, who was actually observing the other fellow, that, sir, I would like to understand, I would like to know that which bank account would be, which bank would be the best for taking my financial services. This fellow immediately said, he got very excited. He said that you should come to my bank. My bank has a lot of good services. And he gave all the details about his bank. So when he said that, he also said that I get a platinum card from my bank. Now this fellow was so innocent that he even showed the platinum card. That fellow took it in his hand, saw the platinum card, and while conversation, he took the platinum card down for a second. Now what he did in that 1 second is not something that was like he did not reveal what he had done in that one particular second. Immediately what had happened is that as soon as this particular information was shared, this fellow just looked the front and back of the credit card, and immediately he said that कि यार ये बहुत प्यारा credit card है. So how does this credit card basically work? Immediately what this fellow said is that I get an OTP on my phone, and once I get an OTP on my phone, I handle everything. Okay, brilliant. Now this is a waiting game. The beauty about cybercrime is a waiting game. So in this waiting game, what had happened is he slowly waited for this other fellow to travel. This other fellow, one fine day, he traveled, he went to a totally different country. And when he was traveling at that time, this fellow immediately went to the network service provider, and he, like Airtel, Vodafone, he went to them and said that ki phone chori ho gaya. He furnished certain fake information, and these days Airtel, Vodafone, Idea are so prominent. I mean, they are so prompt that they immediately provide you with the activation of a new SIM card. So they activated that number, and when he immediately used the credit card details, the OTP started coming to this new number, this number which he had reactivated. Now, how did he get that magnetic strip of that debit card to get working? So this is where things got very, very, very interesting. This magnetic strip was replicated through a device called as a skimmer. A skimmer has the capability of completely replicating the magnetic strip that is there in your debit card or credit card. And by doing that, he was able to gain access into the accounts of that person. And by the time that fellow landed on the other side and he realized what had happened, things had gone completely out of hand. So this is one of the most deadliest way that you can lose your account details or your bank details or your credit card or debit card to activities like skimming. Now, moving further, I'll be talking about the 3 ware attacks. It's called as malware, adware, spyware. Spyware is very simple. Spyware is a kind of a program that is created where a person can constantly keep spying on what you are doing. I'm putting it in simple words. I do not want to go into the technicality of how it happens. Reason being that, there are some people over here. I mean, the technical jargon can be answering your question, Ashfaq Mulani, yes, an OTP cannot be hacked. Okay, a phone can be hacked so that an OTP starts coming to that person. Okay, so moving forward, so a spyware basically creates a program that constantly keeps spying upon what you are doing on an everyday basis. Now, it's like an equivalent to stalking. A stalking, as we all know, everyone, we all hate stalking. If somebody is constantly watching us, if somebody is constantly keeping an eye on us, it becomes very risky for us. So just like stalking, spyware is one particular entity which has created a lot of problems. Second factor is your adware. Now, adware is a kind, I'll be coming to ransomware, Ashwin. I'll be coming to ransomware. Okay. Now, the second type of an attack which we have noticed is your adware. Now, many times we have seen that there is a particular, ads that keep popping up when we go to a particular website, like make easy money, or are you searching for this particular entity? What happens is that when we go to Amazon or Flipkart and we are looking for a certain, I'll be coming to the precautions, Sushant. I will be telling you the precautions. Thank you. So when we go basically into the like a particular website like Amazon or Flipkart, we end up in a scenario where we reveal a lot of data. So they are called as cookies, and those cookies start getting stored up. So when those cookies have got stored up to such a heavy extent, immediately many particular people who have already been watching the movement in Flipkart and Amazon, they will start putting their ads in front of you, saying that you can buy the same device for a much cheaper price over here, or you can buy this device through this also. There's a 50% discount on this particular product. Those are called as adwares. And now comes the last one, is my favorite, ransomware. Okay, Ashwin, answering your question over here. Ransomware, the name itself is enough to understand. I am holding you for ransom. Okay, what does it mean by I am holding you for ransom? It basically means that if a situation comes in where a person says that I have access to your information, I have access to your data. So if you do not perform certain actions the way I want it, then I will attack your devices with such kind of intensity that your entire devices can come collapse. That is what is called as a ransomware. Ransomware is basically a threat. You're holding on to the other person. And ऐसा एक डर बना के रख दिया है, so then in such a scenario, it is one of the most dangerous kind of thing, because you don't know what is going to happen the very next second. So here is one particular question. Sir, if parents use spyware applications to spy on their kids, is it legal? Isn't it a breach of their right to privacy? Indranil, it's a very, very funny and a very nice question. So Indranil, what exactly are you trying to hide that you don't want your parents to look at your device? So Indranil, okay, jokes apart, see, technically it is illegal. I totally agree. But again, the law is pretty much silent on this factor, because here the question that arises is, this is for a good reason. Now in USA, there is one particular, there's one particular kind of a website which constantly keeps a track on the, their children, an application and a software and a website that constantly keeps a track on the children of people who feel that their children are being bullied or there's some kind of a problem. You all would have heard about the famous shootings that have happened in schools and colleges, where a student has just randomly pulled out a gun and had started shooting. And in the end of it, the student shoot himself or herself. Why is that one particular issue happening? Because that student would have been harassed or bullied on some frontier. So parents plant that one particular spyware on their devices in a manner that if the student is facing some kind of a harassment, if the child is facing some kind of a harassment, the parent can know exactly what is going on. See, watching certain pornography or watching certain illegal or illicit items or doing certain illicit actions through your mobile phone or your laptop is something which many people have hidden from their parents. Even I have hidden from my parents. Okay. When that kind of a scenario appears, the parent does not know how it was caused. Trust me, 95% of the children are exposed through peer pressure or through some other external entity. So the parent knows where the line has been crossed. Okay. Immediately the parent will have to start acting upon it. Immediately the parent will have to start taking actions about how to, control, to understand what has happened. Even if a bullying has been done, and because of which the child actually visits something called as the dark web or deep web. Okay, answering one of the questions over here. If the student starts finding out, like let's say that the person has used a particular website, has gone into incognito and has actually gone into the dark web to make certain purchases which are not recommended. When we say purchases, you can actually purchase anything on the dark web. Something which can begin with marijuana, which can go into weapons, which can go into a certain kind of intoxicating materials like drugs, which can also go into cannibalism. All those factors are available in the dark web. So when a person goes into it, the parent will immediately be warned. So Indranil, answering to your particular question, okay, sometimes it is important that the parent has a spyware on their children's device. Okay. Yes, exactly, Mansi. There are a lot of cases of cyberbullying. Tomorrow I'll be talking about cyberbullying. Okay. So I'll be coming to that. So Indranil, I hope I have answered your question. Moving forward, there is another type of attacks that we need to understand. One is called as the Trojan attack. Okay, we have a very beautiful question here. I would like to talk upon that. Aviroop Chatterjee has raised, why do people tape their microphone or webcams? Now, Aviroop, the most logical answer I can give you over here is that right now there are three devices looking at me. You'll be quite surprised. There are three devices looking at me. I have connected on my tab. When I'm looking at you, I'm actually looking at my tablet. And I am looking at my laptop also where the session is going on. And I'm looking at my phone also where the session is going on. Okay. There are three cameras looking at me right now. Now, let's say that through this conversation, somebody plants a keylogger or somebody plants a particular spyware right into one of my devices right now. Okay. Even though I turn off my devices, I keep my devices logged or shut down, if I do not cover my camera like this, okay, people can view what I'm doing. They can activate my device remotely and they can view what I'm doing. That is the reason why many people cover their webcams. Second is the microphone. This is the most important point. If I do not cover my microphone, let's say I'm holding my microphone, this is my microphone, and just an example, like imagine if this was a phone-based device, I'm just completely covering it. Certain people cannot hear me carefully. Why they can't hear me carefully? It's because of the fact that the microphone has the capability of catching hold of data which is in the form of sounds. So if my device has a particular microphone which has not been properly used, which has not been properly monitored, at any time, anywhere, people can actually listen to what I'm saying. If I have planted a keylogger or a bug in your particular device, okay, in your particular device, and it gets activated, whatever you say doesn't matter. You are not connected to me over the phone. You're not connected on any social media. I can still hear you because it is going to constantly keep giving me back data. That is one of the major reasons why people say that disable your microphone or disable your camera from time to time. You would have noticed this very funny phenomena that suddenly sometimes the phone gets switched on its own. Switched on means not switched on in the sense ki unlock ho jata hai apne aap. Okay, the phone is idle and suddenly Cortana or Siri start getting activated. You would have noticed this phenomena. Many of you would have noticed this phenomena on your Android. You would have noticed it on your Apple devices. That is because of the fact that in such kind of a circumstances, there is a keylogger probably running in your device. When you feel that that is there, I would advise you the best precaution: immediately open your file, run a cache scan, clear all the cache, and turn off your device completely for an hour or two. Okay? Turn off your device completely for an hour or two. When your device is completely switched off for an hour or two, Jaskaran, Alexa and Google Home are not breaching your right to privacy. Alexa, Google were designed, and where you actually give them the approval to use your microphone, you're actually accepting to that particular protocol. Okay, Jaskaran? Mrigdha, you have asked us, sir, what is a firewall? Can anybody disable a firewall of our phone? Yes, Mrigdha, it is remotely possible. It is like मैंने आपके घर के अंदर किसी आदमी को बिठा दिया और जब आपको पता नहीं है आपके घर का लॉक खुलवा दिया. Okay, salami attacks right now. Tomorrow I'll assure you that I will be talking about salami attacks. Okay. Manika Singh, you're saying that sometimes the music on your phone starts by itself. Could it be a keylogger activation alarm? It could highly be probable, or it could just be a bug that would have been placed in your phone. It can even just be a virus or a particular bug that just activates it. Okay. Shreyash Marsurkar, Shreyash, you have asked, Apple has known for maintaining privacy of the users by not giving their user info to NSA. So are iOS devices better than Android? Shreyash, now I do not want to be I don't want to start the Apple versus Android war. But Shreyash, I'll be very frank with you. Apple is 10 times more secure than Android. But overall, I would just quote what my guru always used to tell me. My guru, Mr. Vaibhav Salunke, Advocate Vaibhav Salunke, he used to tell me that the safest device is a device which is switched off, battery removed, and buried 10 feet under the ground. So even an Apple can be breached. But if you're comparing between an Apple and an Android, any day Apple is 10 times more secure than Android. Joy, you have asked a question. Recently, in Haryana, a restaurant used unfair means to procure money. I think it was Pizza Hut. Okay, so Joy, are you telling me or asking me? Okay. And Subhash ji, tell us about vulnerabilities of end-to-end encryption. Okay. Now, if any device or any software says that there is end-to-end encryption, they say that what data you send is encrypted, what data is received on the other side is encrypted, and finally, what data is being transmitted in between is encrypted. That is what is the meaning of end-to-end encryption. Okay. But the point is, when you're talking about vulnerabilities, here is the whole, here is the logic. Now, Subhash, I'm sure you would have sent a WhatsApp to somebody in the near past, or probably even today morning. Have you ever faced, I'm sure you would have faced a scenario where you've sent the message and you don't get the double tick, you just get a single tick. It is probably because the person's phone has been switched off, or the person's internet is not functional. When that kind of a scenario, where do you think that data, as you have said, that you have sent as a message, is waiting for? That data is on a server, that data is in a particular place. Now, despite the data being encrypted, no matter the fact that WhatsApp has been doing a lot of things to keep things secure and to ensure that things are not vulnerable, still people tend to get through that server and get that data. Of course, off lately, WhatsApp and Facebook has been playing a very important role in securing their servers and ensuring that all the data is encrypted. But if you get a master hacker over there, it is like a master cracker. Let me recorrect myself. You have a master cracker over there. The person has the capability of breaching through that also. Okay. There's another question over here. So how is it possible when you are not calling anyone from your phone, but a person just sitting next to you, getting a call from our phone? It's a very simple thing. Parul, answering to your question, sometimes a phone can be remotely handled. Okay. When a device or a phone or a laptop is remotely being handled. Now, for example, I wear an Apple Watch. I can control everything on my phone the way I want to. Same way, I can control my entire laptop with my phone. That is how I have connected all my devices. And that's because I have security protocols that have been activated. At the same time, there is also one more factor. If I want to do it illegally, let's say that I know a person who has a laptop and I want to really play with that laptop. So I will plant a particular software or a backdoor entry program or a particular like bug or a virus in that device, and I can start remotely controlling that device. That is how it works. Shreyas, a pretty big question, but we are actually almost out of time. The session is going to end in 1.5 minutes, but let me go to your question. The tracking of multiple aspects of internet by an individual, such as location, search history, and downloads, is utilized to form a customer profile and then utilized to bombard the said customer with information more critical to their apparent interest. This can be seen in Google. Absolutely. Would this be considered? Perfectly asked question. And yes, it is a breach of privacy. Yes, it is a breach of privacy, Shreyas. Okay, I'll just give you a single line answer. It is a breach of privacy. Anyways, guys, we are just left with 1 more minute, and I actually didn't realize that I'll actually be getting so many questions from all of you, and the fact that we'll have so much data over here. So anyways, before I complete the session today, so tomorrow's session I'll be completing about some of the attacks, and tomorrow I'll be talking about the legal aspects. Okay, I'll be talking about all the legal aspects tomorrow, where we are going to go in detail about what is what is the Information Technology Act, how the Information Technology, or agar attack hua hai, so how do you take an action immediately? So for that, I would be request you all to be there at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, and like when I see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I will start with completing the types of attacks, and we'll go deep into the next aspect. Okay, and if you want to connect with me, please do feel free to connect with me. My email ID is hbkeshava.advocate@gmail.com, hbkeshava.advocate@gmail.com, or you can take my details from Tathya Walk the